the 513 Sports Attack.
My name's Nick, and with me as always, my partner in crime, Corey, coming to you from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, man?
Not much. How you doing during this quarantine?
I'm staying in, staying safe, staying away from people, trying to make sure this goes away.
Yeah, definitely. Me as well. So we're gonna be going over our mock draft here today, Corey. We're gonna do a little mock draft, all right?
Yes, sir.
So let's just get into it. We're gonna go through the entire first round. All right. The first pick in this year's draft, we all know belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. So it seems here the consensus over number one overall pick, Corey, is going to be Joe Burrows. Your thoughts, and who do you think the Bengals are going to take?
I've seen everything, heard everything about it, pretty involved with it. I really think when it comes down to it, they've made up their mind. They spent all of their phone calls on him already. I think Joe Burrow is the number one overall pick. I think there are other options the Bengals could look into, but I think Joe Burrow is the pick.
Okay. What do you so Joe Burrow's made comments recently that he has, never had a losing season since he was 5 years old. He's not a loser, doesn't want to play for a losing franchise. If you're in the front office here, does that scare you a little bit? Wanting to take him, maybe you're looking at an Eli Manning type situation where he's like, I'm just not going to play for you guys. You better trade me.
See, I don't think so. I think a part of it is he's coming home. A part of it, he's from here. He's from Oxford. He's from by OU. He's coming back home. I think he wants to be here. And let's not forget, the Bengals had a lot of injuries last year, had a lot of missing pieces that really caused them to not have a good season. They lost a lot of players on defense. Not having A.J. Green, people will talk about it as much as they want to, but not having A.J. Green is a big part. And I think having that, my worry with it is Joe Burrow you're drafting him number one overall to play right now. He's going to play right now. And I'm okay with that, but as a rookie, it scares me. And I would love to have him sit back a year. But, when you commit to him at number one overall with him making those comments, he's going to play game one.
Definitely. Now, I know it's been talked about and everything. What do you believe the chances are the Bengals trading the number one overall pick here?
It's very, very small. I would say right now, because obviously we still have a couple days before the draft on Thursday. So I would say right now you're probably about 10%, 90% on Joe Burrow, 10% maybe trade. I think you have to understand, you have to leave that 10% out there because some team might say, here's 4 first-round picks for the number one overall pick, and you can't refuse that. So I think right now it's about 10%
right.
that they.
I mean, and yeah, it would be very. Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, if somebody comes out at you with an offer you really can't confuse, it's kind of hard to turn that down, especially if somebody's offering you 4 first-rounders. I mean, my thing is with the Bengals, you need help on your offensive line. Your offense, the offensive weapons you have are great. So I guess I could see the Bengals maybe trading the number one pick if the price is right. And getting away from taking a quarterback, maybe signing the likes of a Cam Newton or Jameis Winston here in the offseason. Those two guys are still without jobs from what I've heard. So I really think that could be a possibility to trade down and take an offensive lineman and start beefing up your offensive line to protect either whoever your quarterback's going to be. Really, I mean, that's where you're going to win the football games because Joe Burrow isn't going to be able to do anything if he doesn't have protection up front.
Yeah, and again, I agree with you. as a Bengals fan, I'm not an Andy Dalton guy. I'm not an Andy Dalton fan. So I would love to see somebody else be there. But I think, you could get a lot of value for the number one overall pick. And you could get an awful lot for it.
Oh, especially this year with what's believed to be the top two prospects. Because I mean, if somebody is really that all in on a guy and they're like, look, let's trade away our first rounders for the next 4 years, this year and then the next 3, we could, they could sell out for Chase Young or Joe Burrow, and I mean that's definitely a possibility. All right, so the number 2 pick looks like to be a consistency again over Mel Kiper and Todd McShay with Chase Young. Now, the Redskins do need offensive line help. They need tight end. They need a tight end. They are in the market for a receiver and a corner and an edge rusher. So, I mean, do you think the Redskins will pass up on Chase Young?
I don't. I really don't. I don't think they will pass on Chase Young. Chase Young is too good of a prospect. And I'm telling you, if Joe Burrow was not there, you would think Chase Young would be the number 1 overall pick. He's that Jadeveon Clowney, Mario Williams. He's that kind of game changer type. The Von Miller. He's going to come in. He's going to come in. He's going to wreak havoc. I think the Redskins, you're right. They do need a lot of help offensively. But I think if Joe Burrow is gone, they've already got their quarterback. They've got some young receivers already. I think you have to address a need. You can always, pass rushers are always needed. And I think with Chase Young, you've got a pass rusher for 10, 15 years down the line.
Oh, I definitely agree there. The only thing, though, that could surprise me here is if the Redskins value one of these awesome offensive linemen in this draft that are here. I know Tristan Wirfs from Iowa. He's a junior coming out. He's a phenomenal offensive lineman. Jedrick Willis Jr. out of Alabama. He's also a junior coming out for going his senior season. He's a phenomenal offensive lineman. I mean, when you really think of prospects coming out of Iowa and Alabama, I think from Alabama, I look at their offensive linemen. That's what Nick Saban does very well is put offensive linemen in the NFL. And out of Iowa, you're either looking at your tight end or offensive linemen. So, I mean, I could really see the Redskins addressing that need and saying, hey, we have a solid core here on our defensive line. Even though Chase Young would be too good of a player to pass up, I could see them maybe going that offensive line route, just saying, hey, look, we got to protect Dwayne Haskins here. That wouldn't surprise me, but I agree with you with, the consistency here that Chase Young is just that player that you can't really pass up on this year. Now, if Washington does go that, we'll get to it here in a minute. But I'll tell you who I think if Washington passes on Chase, I'm going to tell you where I think he's going to be going later. The next pick here that has a lot of rumors surrounding it is number 3, the Lions. The consistency here between Mel Kiper and Todd McShay, your 2 draft experts, if you will. They're saying Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State, cornerback, coming out. Now, they need a lot of help on their defense after losing Darius Slay. They do need some offensive line help. They need a running back. They also need a receiver. What are your thoughts here? Does Okudah end up going to the Lions at number 3?
So I agree with them. I do think Okudah would be the pick for the Lions here. I think the Lions are going to end up being the rumors are going to continue to swirl. I think the Lions are going to take this pick and pick Okudah just because they don't have that number 1 corner. And Okudah was the best corner all year in college football, and he can definitely go ahead and take, the reins over in that, secondary. But it's one of those picks where this is a pick right here that I could definitely see the Chargers sliding in and taking a quarterback. more than likely Herbert over knowing that the Dolphins are really high on him. So I think that that's something to watch. I think the Chargers could be a player here to jump in and take a quarterback. But I think the Lions need pick Okuda, and I think that they're going to take him at number 3.
Yeah, an interesting stat about Okuda from 2019, and I know I shared this with you earlier in the week, Core, was he did not have one single penalty called against him all year long. I mean, that's that's really incredible when you're talking about a corner who's going up against every single team's number 1 receiver. To not have a pass interference, holding call, or anything called against you, that just shows how fundamentally sound he is as a corner, and how comfortable he is being left on an island. So I now when we talk about trade, when you talk about that trade with the Chargers, yeah, it makes sense. But I think Herbert will be there at number 6 for them. I don't think the Dolphins are going to take Herbert, at number 5, but I do think that the Lions will stay with the number 3 pick, and they will be taking Okuda. That's just my opinion.
Yep, I agree.
Alrighty. Well, we have the Giants here at number 4. They need an offensive tackle. They need an edge rusher. They need a safety, a wide receiver, a tight end. Looks like here the consensus here is going to be Isaiah Simmons, outside linebacker out of Clemson. The guy's a monster. We've all seen what he can do. Playing that outside linebacker position. He is the best linebacker in this draft. What are your thoughts on him? Do you see the Giants maybe going in a different route than Isaiah Simmons? What are your thoughts here, and what do you think is going to happen with the number 4 pick?
So I think this is one of those. This is like there's 2 guys here. I think it's pretty much narrowed down to Isaiah Simmons and the offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs from Iowa. I originally would have said the Louisville tackle, but obviously he's been in some trouble. So he might slide there. But I think the Giants, I like Isaiah Simmons. Chase Young is by far the best defensive player, but I think Isaiah Simmons is number 2. I think Isaiah Simmons is the second best defensive player in this draft. Obviously, Okuda is a great player, and he may go ahead of him, which in this draft he did. But I think Isaiah Simmons is pick over offense because, again, offensive linemen, you can't necessarily get great ones, but you can get good ones. Obviously, you drafted your quarterback high, last year. And so I think what you need to do here is I think you need to take the best player available for your need. I think Isaiah Simmons fits that need. Again, he is an absolute freak of nature monster to be able for offenses to have to worry about. That New York Giant defense can always use an upgrade pass rushing position. I think Isaiah Simmons is the pick, and I really like it, and I think it's a perfect fit and a perfect spot for him to go.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think I don't think the Giants are going to take him at 4, though. What I can see really happening is because when you look behind the Giants with the next 2 picks, right? Both of these teams, the Dolphins and the Chargers, are going to be taking quarterbacks, right? That's what we all expect them to do. So actually, what I could see happening is the Chargers making a trade with the Giants up to number 4. The Giants fall back to 6 to take Simmons and let the Chargers go after their quarterback at 4. The Dolphins get theirs at 5. Simmons falls to you at 6. You're not at a loss, and actually you probably gain something because you're not going to just, trade 4 for 6, So I could see that happening. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if they did decide to get a stellar offensive lineman like Tristan Wirfs from Iowa to put up there to give, for Saquon and Daniel Jones. So, but I agree with you. I think if you're going to if you're not going to take the offensive lineman, you have to take the best player available for your need, and that would be Isaiah Simmons. All right, so moving on here, we got right now we have the Miami Dolphins at number 5. The consensus here, we actually have an update here. Mel Kiper just updated his mock draft, and it looks like he is taking Justin Herbert there at number 5 to the Dolphins, and Todd McShay is still sticking with Tua. What do you think the Dolphins are going to do here at number 5?
So I know you and I have had this conversation earlier, Nick. I think this is one of those things. It's one. They're both going in a row. Whether we agree with it or not, I think Herbert or Tua is a good pick here. Earlier on I was leaning towards Tua. I think Tua overall is a more polished quarterback than Hurt. However, I think Herbert possibly could be the overall best quarterback in this class. So I'm going to stick with Herbert here with the Dolphins. I think it's just because of Tua's future, I think might scare them off enough to where they would take Herbert if he is available. So I think Herbert is the pick at number 5 for the Dolphins.
I agree. I think with Tua's hip injury that he suffered last year, that kept him out all for the remainder of the season, and there are just reports coming out that there's been undisclosed injuries about him, like small fractures in his wrist, high ankle sprains that he suffered that really never fully, healed before he was playing again. A lot of those things, that are coming out. And I don't know if an NFL, especially a team like the Dolphins, are going to want to take that risk of taking a Tua at 5, throwing him in there right away. He takes one hit from a 300-pound defensive lineman week 1, and boom, he's out for the year again. I don't think they're going to take that chance. I agree with you. I really think if he's still there at 5, they're going to take Justin Herbert. I personally think he is the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, I as much as we want to talk about Joe Burrow, I think Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, but I think Justin Herbert at 6'6", the offense that he ran, the touch he has, I think he could end up being the best quarterback in this draft. So I think the Dolphins will go ahead and stick with him.
I think that as well. All right, so number 6, we have the Chargers. I know we've talked about different scenarios with them trading up to get their guy. Mel Kiper actually has the Chargers taking Tua, and Todd McShay looks like to have Jordan Love out of Utah. Who do you, if nothing, let's just say no trades are made, who are the Chargers taking at 6?
I think the pick is Tua. I think, Utah, you talk about them, and as an offense, they were great. But I think, if Tua wouldn't have gotten hurt, we might have been talking about Tua going to the Bengals. So I think Tua is is a more polished quarterback in this draft, just like Joe Burrow. But I think in the long run of things, I think he may falter. But I think at this pick, the Chargers are going to go with the flashy, the more experienced, the, just trust, because Tua might have to sit out and might not be able to play this first year. So the Chargers may, let him sit back, learn the offense, get ready to go. So I think the pick is Tua here.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Looking at all these quarterbacks that are, available, I would say Tua would be the pick there if Herbert's off the board, obviously. Jordan Love, he's a great quarterback. So is Jacob Eason. But I think you would have to take Tua being the, second, what's ranked the second best quarterback in the draft right now. But again, who knows? I mean, we saw how many hits Phillip Rivers had. So, that could be in the back of the mind of the Chargers, like, our offensive line, do we want to take that risk of even him sitting out a year and then bringing him in and he takes that one hit and he's done? I mean, that could happen with any quarterback, really, but like with Tua's injury history, that might, change some minds. So I could see them taking Jordan Love at 6, but I agree with you. I believe it will be Tua. All right. Now coming down to the Carolina Panthers, it looks like here consensus is Derek Brown, the defensive tackle out of Auburn, going to the Panthers. Your thoughts on that? And who would you be taking at number 7?
So Derek Brown is the pick here in our draft. Obviously, I think if Isaiah Simmons or Jeff Okudah is here, I think Panthers would take them. However, I think at point they have to go defense. You can say, they don't have Cam Newton. However, at this point, I think look at it and you say they lost Gerald McCoy, they lost Dontari Poe, they lost Luke Kuechly. Need to get some good stocky defense. No better than Derek Brown, right? Outside of Chase Young, probably the best defensive lineman in this class. Derek Brown at 7 is the pick for me.
I don't disagree there. And this is actually if the Redskins decide to go offensive lineman, I could see Chase Young falling to the Panthers at 7. As crazy as that sounds, I could see that happening. I can really see that happening just because I think the Giants at 4 are still going to want to take an offensive lineman no matter what. And I could see Chase Young falling actually to the Panthers at 7 if and only if the Redskins go offensive lineman with their number 2 pick.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I think it's more likely that Isaiah Simmons or Okudah would fall more so than Chase Young, because I think at that point, if the Giants are looking at 4 with Chase Young still there, I don't think that they could pass that up. But I think there's a real shot that Isaiah Simmons could still be here for the Panthers, in which I think they would take Isaiah Simmons with this pick. But I think the way things have fallen so far, Derek Brown is a very good safety pick.
Yes. Oh, I agree. So it looks like here the consensus at number 8 for the Cardinals is Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle out of Iowa. I know we've talked about him maybe going earlier in the draft. If he's still available, do you see the Cardinals going in this direction? Or do you think they may go with a different offensive lineman even if Wirfs is available?
Okay, so this is definitely, I'll be the first one to sit here and tell you, this is definitely an offensive lineman pick. Okay, there is no doubt about it that this is 100% an offensive lineman pick. All right, I personally think Tristan Wirfs is a great tackle. I think that Jedrick Willis from Alabama is the pick here. I think that Arizona will go, to Alabama and buck Jedrick Willis. I think he will be the pick here. Still a phenomenal offensive tackle, and I think Tristan Wirfs will go a couple picks more, which we'll get to. Again, Tristan Wirfs is not a bad pick here. I think, again, Wirfs really could be the pick here, but I think the Cardinals are going to lean more towards Jedrick Willis, the offensive tackle from Alabama.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Jedrick Willis would be the pick there at number 8 instead of Tristan. I feel like the Cardinals are going to lean more towards the big man out of Alabama than they are going to be out of Iowa. All right, so now we're moving on to number 9 here at the Jaguars. Todd McShay has been taking Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama, wide receiver. It looks like Todd McShay has been taking Justin Herbert. Your thoughts on that? And do you think and what do you think the Jaguars are going to do down there at number 9?
So again, this is something that I've kind of gone back and forth with here. This is a pick that I think might surprise some people here, but I think Jacksonville could take Jerry Jeudy with the chances, knowing that there's a couple teams like the Jets who are very much interested in Jerry Jeudy. But I personally think that Jacksonville needs to go defense with this pick, and I think that they're going to go with the inside linebacker, Javon Kinlaw. I think he is a better fit here for the Jaguars. Jerry Jeudy, don't get me wrong, is a phenomenal wide receiver, but I don't think he is a top 10 pick. I think a top 15, absolutely. So I think you could look, to see if someone may try to trade up to take him earlier on. But I don't think Jerry Jeudy deserves to be in the top 10. In other mock drafts, you've seen D.D. Westbrook maybe be the better receiver. But I don't think Jerry Jeudy. I think 9 is too high. I go with Javon Kinlaw here for the Jaguars.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been back and forth. I can see them going for wide receiver. I definitely don't see them drafting a quarterback, even though they got rid of Nick Foles. I think that was just more of Minshew's our guy down there now. But I can really see them maybe reaching for C.J. Henderson out of Florida, a top-rated corner coming out of this draft, 6'1", 204. I could see them going that route too, because that's a huge need for them now that they don't have they lost Jalen Ramsey. So, I think that they could go that route as well, but they need a lot of help on defense. So I think that they're going to go more defensive than they are going to be offensive in that pick. All right. So we're going to be moving on to the team that I'm a fan of here. We're going to be looking at the Cleveland Browns here at number 10. Todd McShay has them taking the offensive tackle Becton out of Louisville. Todd McShay is saying Jedrick Wills out of the offensive tackle out of Alabama. I know you said that Wills is going to be gone by this pick. So who do you think the Browns are going to take? I mean, do you think Kuiper is going to be right with Becton, or do you think they might go for Tristan out of Iowa?
So I really was high on Becton, and I thought that he could be the number one lineman taken in this year's draft. But recently they came back that they held a drug test. Something came. So I think that that's going to affect him and have him be pushed a little bit farther down. And I think with this pick, Cleveland needs to address offense as a need on the line. And I think right here you're looking at maybe the best lineman still available with Tristan Wirfs from Iowa. So I think they're going to take Tristan Wirfs to complement the offensive line. And with him being there, with could be the best lineman there, I think they're going to take him.
Okay. I definitely agree. I don't see them taking Becton anymore just because of, like you said, all of the issues that he's had on and off the field, or off the field. So I definitely see Tristan being the pick for the Browns there. Let's move on to number 11 with the Jets. They're saying Mel Kiper saying Willis Jr. here. Todd McShay saying Jerry Jeudy. In my personal opinion, I think it's more likely they go the Jerry Jeudy route at number 11 than taking an offensive lineman. Your thoughts on that, Cor?
So I would have said if Becton would have been and everything would have been clear and everything would have looked great and been fine, I think Becton would have been taken by Cleveland, which would have left Wirfs or Wills here for the Jets, which I think they would have jumped at. However, I think the fact that that was not that the drug that's being held, that's going to make some teams push back on Becton, which is going to, again, cause him to fall. I think the pick here then becomes, what else do we need outside of offensive line? They really need help all around. But I think here you go with, knowing that the Raiders are right behind you, I think you take Jerry Jeudy here so I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy for the New York Jets.
I have to agree. I think that would be the logical pick. They desperately need a wide receiver now that Robbie Anderson is gone. So I think that they're going to go that route as well. Like you said, the Raiders are sitting right behind them. Todd McShay has him taking CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma, and surprisingly enough, the Todd McShay has him taking C.J. Henderson out of Florida, who I mentioned earlier. Where do you think that the Raiders are going to go wide receiver more than defense on this pick?
So obviously, Las Vegas. They're in Las Vegas. They've got some talent. I think they really could look here. This could be a pick where they may take Becton if he's still available. I think you can always get some offensive line help. He may still be available there. However, Henderson is a great pick, but I personally believe, and I really do think, that here the Raiders always have, always will be, until I'm proven wrong, they're going to go for speed. CeeDee Lamb may be the fastest, if not the fastest guy in this draft. CeeDee Lamb is the guy for the Raiders, and he will be drafted by the Raiders.
I agree. I 100% agree. I don't see the Raiders going in any other direction here. Just giving Derek Carr, or no, it's not. Is it Derek out there now? Is that his name? I know it's the Carr brother.
Yep.
Yeah, Derek Carr.
Yep.
I know he's the. They need some weapons for him. They do have a solid running back in Jacobs. They have a great tight end. They just are missing that one, speed receiver who can cause some havoc for defenses, and I think it's CeeDee Lamb as well. Now, number 13 looks like from Indianapolis, Todd McShay has looks like the 49ers taking CeeDee Lamb, who lost Emmanuel Sanders in free agency, whereas Todd McShay says that the 49ers are more likely to take Henry Ruggs III out of Alabama. I kind of agree with that just because I think CeeDee Lamb's going to be already off the board. What's your opinion on number 13 here?
So I think this is going to be one of those picks that people are going to talk about here for a while here. And I think this pick for me, I looked at it and I think here, if Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb is there, I think there's no doubt that San Francisco will get in and take one of them. However, in our draft with them already being gone, I'm going to look and to take I'm going to look to I think they're going to go defense here, and I think they're going to take C.J. Henderson, the corner, to help out and shore up the secondary.
I could see that going as well, and I don't disagree with that. Now we have the new Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tampa Bay. Now, Todd McShay has been taking Becton out of Louisville. I think that's more likely where he will fall due to everything recent that's happened. Mel Kiper, with his updated mock draft, says Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle out of Georgia. What do you think is more likely to happen there? Is Becton more likely to fall down to Tampa Bay, or do you think he's going to be gone and they are going to settle for Andrew Thomas?
So I think, again, pick is all about, who is there. In our draft, I'm going to take Becton. I think this is a good fit for him. I think he is far enough could be possibly the best lineman in the draft. I'm going to settle for Becton here for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Obviously, they're to shore up the line. If Becton is one, obviously things could trickle down a different way. And I think they would take Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. Or I could also see Tampa Bay saying, we have two great receivers. Maybe we want to try to take a Henry Ruggs right in front of Denver and pass on an offensive lineman. But here I think the offensive lineman makes sense, and I think Becton falls to 14 to the Bucks.
Oh, I definitely agree. So number 15, sitting right behind them, are the Broncos. They need some help all around. There's rumors that John Elway's been reaching out to the Browns to trade up to number 10. Uh, I don't see the Browns getting away from that pick just based off of they desperately need help on the offensive lineman, and they need to get one of the best ones in the draft. So Todd McShay has him taking Andrew Thomas. I like this pick actually for him that Mel Kiper has for him, and Justin Jefferson out of the wide receiver out of LSU. I can really see that's the direction they might go here. Getting another offensive weapon, and he's one of the best receivers in this draft that is highly, highly overlooked.
Yeah, I agree with you here. I actually have Justin Jefferson as well for Denver here. I think this could be a Henry Ruggs sighting as well. Again, I think Justin Jefferson is more polished. Justin Jefferson did a lot of favors for himself by running a 4.3 at the combine. He did a lot of favors. I think Justin Jefferson is moving up draft boards, and I think at number 15, Denver will take Justin Jefferson from LSU.
I definitely agree. All right, so halfway through the first round, we're gonna have our halfway point here with the Atlanta Falcons. Number 16, Mel Kiper says that they're going to be taking Cleveland Chassian, the outside linebacker out of LSU. Todd McShay says that they're going to take Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. Which direction do you think they go? Do you think they go linebacker? I feel like no matter what, this is a defensive pick for them. Which direction do you think they go? Do you think they go for a guy who can be a signal caller on their defense, or do you think they go defensive line here?
I look at this pick here, and I'm going to go with defensive line. I think K'Lavon Chaisson from LSU, I think he is the pick. A lot of NFL scouts have said that he could be the second best edge rusher in this class behind Chase Young.
He's a linebacker.
The linebacker, yes, sir. Yes, they said he could be the best. Yeah, and he played at LSU in the down as well, in the 3-point stance as well. So I think he could be the pick here. I also want to note that the Falcons could be moving up. They could be a team to really move into the draft. I've heard a couple rumors about maybe them trying to, just shore up some things and maybe move up in the top 5 and to take a really talented player at that point. But I think here we're going to stay Wason from LSU.
All right. So that's halfway through here, folks. We did the first half of the draft so far. So, Core, any dark horses players now before we get into the second half here? Any dark horse players that you see could possibly find their way into the top half of this draft?
I do. I think there's a couple players who I've got my eye on here that could slide in. Obviously, we've talked about him a couple. I think Henry Ruggs is one of those guys that could go above one of the 3 receivers that we've already taken. I think he's one of those guys that could. Obviously, you mentioned him. I think Jordan Love is another guy who could slide in. I think we very easily could have 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 10 picks. I think that's a possibility. There's a one player that is kind of falling a little bit that could slide right up in is Jay Terrell. I think he could be the second best corner in this draft. Obviously we have 2 taken in our draft before, but I think that he could jump up and be taken as well at playing at Clemson, in that man-to-man defense. So I think those are the 3 guys that I've kind of got my eye on.
All right. So we're going to kick off the second half here with what they claim to be America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Tom McShay says they're going to be taking C.J. Henderson, corner out of Florida. Mel Kiper has Xavier McKinney, safety out of Alabama. Personally, I think they go more with the safety more than they do the corner route here. What's your opinion? Because it seems like it's a defensive pick for them. Do you think they go safety or corner?
So I think they're going to go safety. I think this pick is going to be a little tough. I think it's either between Xavier McKinney from Alabama or Antoine Winfield Jr. I like to lean more towards the Cowboys taking the better overall player. You'd like to think that the Cowboys would do that, and I think that in this pick they will. And I think they are going to take Xavier McKinney from Alabama. Even though Antoine Winfield Jr. may be a little bit more polished off, I think Winfield is going to fall and will go in the first round a little later on. But I think McKinney is the pick for the Cowboys.
See, I don't think if they're going to pick a safety, I don't think they're going to go down to Antoine Winfield Jr. out of Minnesota. I think they're going to stay in the SEC though. With that pick, if they don't take McKinney from Alabama, I think they're going to go with Grant Delpit out of LSU. The kid has amazing pursuit on the ball. He, we talk about it a lot, Core, and we've talked about it so many times where players they play the man instead of playing the ball. And when you play the ball, you get, you have a better opportunity of knocking the pass down or getting an interception. And that's what he does. When he sees the receiver look back, he's playing the ball and not playing the receiver anymore. So I think that's what the best things that McKinney and Delpit do. So I can see Grant Delpit actually going, being taken by the Cowboys if they decide that McKinney's not their guy.
Absolutely.
All righty. Now we're gonna move on to the Dolphins here. They got another first rounder here at number 18 from Pittsburgh. Todd McShay has him taking Xavier McKinney here, whereas Mel Kiper Jr. has him taking Javon Clinmall, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. Which route do you think they go here? Because it seems consensus that they're going to be taking a defensive player right here.
So I don't think they're going to go defense here. I really think the way our draft has gone, I think there is a standout that they could take. Obviously, we have them taking Jeff Herbert. So what do you do to protect Justin Herbert? You draft a lineman. So right here, I have them taking Andrew Thomas, the offensive lineman from Georgia. I think that's a solid pick for them here. That's who I would have them take here at 18. He fell this far because of Becton as well. So I think Andrew Thomas, for me, would be the pick here for the Dolphins.
I completely agree with you. I really think they should go offensive lineman instead of going defense. They desperately need the help on the offensive line. Just watching them last year, it seemed like no matter what, they had 2 seconds to sit back there and make a decision for their quarterback. So I think that this is not going to be a defensive pick, like you said. I do think they're going to address their offensive line need with Andrew Thomas. Now, the Raiders do have another pick here at number 19 from Chicago. Mel Kiper says Jordan Love is going to be the pick. That's Mel Kiper. Whereas where Todd McShay says they're going to go with safety Antoine Winfield Jr. So who do you think they're going to go with? Do you think they're going to draft a quarterback and say, Derek Carr, this is your year to prove it? If not, we're moving on.
So I think could be a quarterback. I think it's one of those where it really could come down to it. It really could be the quarterback. I also look that they could be taking a corner. Again, but I think Jordan Love will be the pick. I think Jordan Love is the pick here for the Raiders. I don't necessarily agree with the pick, but obviously it's the Raiders. They're going to do whatever they feel is right. And I think here for them, I like Jordan Love as being the fourth quarterback taken in the first round. I think that this might be a little bit of a reach, but I think the Raiders don't believe in Mariota or Derek Carr, so I think you got to try to move and get something better, and I think Jordan Love is the pick.
Yeah, see, I think they could. I think they can hold off on a quarterback at least for another year. As we were talking earlier, there's a handful coming out next year that are going to be solid prospects. I think really here if I was them, I'd be looking at two players. Christian Fulton out of LSU, a corner, or AJ Terrell out of Clemson. And I can even throw Damon Arnett in there as well. He's a nice physical corner. He's definitely overlooked because of what Jeff Okudah did last year at Ohio State. But let's not forget, Arnett held down his side of the field on his own island as well. So I think those would be the three players that I think the Raiders should look at because they desperately need to address their corner position in this draft, especially with a heavy secondary great talent draft. I think you can't pass up on any of these guys in the first round because you don't know if they're going to be there come the second round. All right, so we got number 20 here, the Jaguars from the LA Rams. It looks like McShay has him taking Brandon Ayuk from the wide receiver out of Arizona State, where it looks like Todd McShay has the Jaguars taking Kenneth Murray, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. Do you think they go offensive defensive with this pick, Core?
So obviously, it's their second pick here, first round. In our draft we have them taking Javon Kinlaw at number 9, and I think at number 20 here, I think they address it with defense again. Again, last year they lost Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boyd, so I think they're going to go with the corner from LSU, Christian Fulton here. I think he makes a lot of sense. They could use some more help on defense. Obviously, you have Garninshu, and you're going to need to provide him some help, which I think they will do later on in later rounds. But I think Christian Fulton makes a lot of sense for Jacksonville.
I think the exact same thing. I feel like they're going to go with him as well. Number 21, pick 21, the Eagles. Mel Kiper thinks that Henry Ruggs III is going to drop to him at number 21. Todd McShay has Patrick Queen, the inside linebacker out of LSU. Do you think the Eagles go offense or defense here? Again,
I think they're going offense. I think they're going to go receiver. I think there's a chance that Henry Ruggs will fall. In our draft, he has fallen, and I think the Eagles, Henry Ruggs is fast. He is something the Eagles need. He's that Deshaun Jackson type of player, game-breaking speed. And, Tyreek Hill, those guys, look good those guys do nowadays in the NFL. I think Henry Ruggs potentially could be one of those guys with Carson Wentz at the helm. Henry Ruggs is the pick.
No, I definitely agree there. Minnesota has number 22 from Buffalo. Mel Kiper has him taking Brandon out of the wide receiver out of Arizona State. And Todd McShay's board, he's already gone, so he has him taking Justin Jefferson at that pick. It seems consistent, though, that they're going to be taking a wide receiver. Out of the wide receivers that are left for you, Core, who do you think they take?
So I think this is a really disheartening pick for Minnesota, especially in our draft, to have Henry Ruggs go right in front of them. Again, they need a wide receiver after losing, Stephon Diggs. They need a wide receiver. Minnesota will take Ayuk from Arizona State, and he's a big physical target, and I think he will go to Minnesota.
All right. I would have to agree with that as well. The Patriots are on the clock at 23. Todd McShay has him taking a D-end, AJ Epineza out of Iowa. And Mel Kiper has him taking Zach Bond, the outside linebacker out of Wisconsin. I think it's more likely they go with a linebacker here over a defensive lineman. So I'm going to agree with Mel Kiper with Zach. What do you think they do?
I agree with you. I do think they go linebacker here. I think they need to address it, need to get a little bit faster. Now, in our draft here, he has fallen, been rated higher than a lot of others, but I think Kenneth Murray makes a lot of sense for New England here. as he has not gone in our draft. Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma is the linebacker here, and I think New England will take Kenneth Murray.
Okay. I agree. I agree. If he's if he's available, I think the Patriots will go that route. It looks like the Saints are going to be on the clock at 24. Mel Kiper has been taking AJ Terrell out of Clemson, where Todd McShay looks like Kenneth Murray, the inside linebacker out of Oklahoma. I'm going to go, because we just said Murray's going to be off the board here. I got to go with Mel Kiper here with AJ Terrell, a corner. They just lost, was it Von Bell that came to Cincinnati? If I'm not mistaken, they just lost him. So I think that's the route they go here with that pick to get another elite corner.
So I agree to an extent that they're going to go defense here. I think it's going to be between a couple of players here. They have a lot of linebackers, so I don't know that they will go linebacker here. I definitely could see AJ Terrell going here as a corner. I definitely think they might also like Jeff Gladney, the corner from TCU as well. He could be in the mix here. There's a couple here. I actually, in my pick here, though, I think I'm going to go with Antoine Winfield Jr. as the safety, more so as a safety than a corner. I think AJ Terrell may be the better player, but I think Antoine Winfield is going to be the better fit for them, and I think Antoine Winfield Jr. will go to the Saints to replace their omitted safety spot.
All right. The Vikings are up next here at 25. Todd McShay has them taking Trayvon Diggs, where Mel Kiper has them taking Jalen Johnson out of Utah. I think it is a corner pick, but I do think that they end up going with Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama more so than Utah. Who do you have the Vikings taking?
So I think you are correct. That's a really good pick. In our draft, I think the Vikings, if he is available, I think the Vikings will without a take him to fill the corner spot. And I think right here at 25, AJ Terrell comes off the board from Clemson. Maybe fell a little bit farther than we thought, but I think AJ Terrell will go to the Vikings at 25.
All righty. The Dolphins are back on the clock at 26. They received this pick from Houston. Todd McShay has them taking Josh Jones, where Mel Kiper has them addressing their corner safety need with Antoine Winfield Jr. I know he's off your board. So who do you have the Dolphins taking here at 26?
So the Dolphins with their third pick in this first round here? Okay, so we have them taking Justin Herbert, and then we also have them taking Andrew Thomas. I think this is one of those picks where they are going to go and upgrade defensively. They really need to upgrade defensively. I think at a point you go to, who's the best player left for you to possibly be taken. I think it may be a little bit, you could say it may be a little bit of a reach, even so. But I really like Zach Bond, the outside linebacker from Wisconsin. Big 10 guy, kept Wisconsin's defense together in tough games. I think the Dolphins need a guy like that. I think the Dolphins are going to take Zach Bond.
If he's available, I definitely agree with that pick there. The Seahawks are on the clock at 27. Tom McShay has been taking Clavon Chassian, the defensive end out of LSU, and Kiper has him taking Cesar Ruiz, the center/guard out of your team there, Michigan. Which direction do you think they go?
So I really like. So I've heard rumors that Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan is definitely someone they're looking into here. I really think this could be a tradable pick, depending on who is still available. I think the Seahawks, may be in the looks of trying to trade this pick. I think at this pick, though, I think the Seahawks, they've lost a little bit on defense. I think they're going to go defense with this pick. And I think instead of, where they would like to probably be able to get AJ Terrell as a corner, I think they're going to actually go with an end here. And I think they're going to go with Gross Matos out of Penn State, the star edge rusher.
I think that as well. I think that they're going to get him out of Penn State as well.
I just think it's just, they lost Jadeveon Clowney. You need a pass rusher. I think he makes a lot of sense. I think he actually is, he dominated Michigan. I know he played very well against Ohio State as well. I think he's a great player, and I think that the Seahawks are really good at grooming defensive players, and I think it's just going to be another Pete Carroll miracle here, and I think Gross Matos makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, I think it does too, especially with Clowney's future still up in the air. I don't think he's currently signed with anybody, but it appears he's not coming back. But in a miracle that he does, you have one elite pass rusher on one end, and then you get another one on the other end, which is just nightmare for defenses or offensive line. So I think they go defensive line in there. The Baltimore Ravens had a stellar year. Lamar Jackson balled out last year. And McShay has him going defense here, filling the inside linebacker position with Patrick Queen. Whereas McShay has him actually going defensive tackle Ross Blacklock out of TCU. I think it's more likely that they go a linebacker over defensive line. What's your opinion?
So I've seen a lot of rumors going around here. I think in this pick, we kind of just talked about him here. I think Baltimore is going to go offense. As shocking as that may be, as good as they were offensively, the one thing that really, really worries me with Baltimore is if Lamar Jackson's going to be able to duplicate that. You might as well go get a good, stellar offensive line. I think Cesar Ruiz fits the mold right here in Baltimore, and I think he'll go from Michigan to Baltimore, and I think Baltimore will be getting a really good center and offensive lineman, and I think that's the route they're going to go to make sure that Lamar Jackson is upright.
Yeah, definitely. Because you have to have offensive linemen to have continued success in the NFL. So I agree with you. I think they go offensive linemen as well, more than they would need to do on defense, because their defense was great last year. At pick 29, the Titans are up. Kuiper has him taking your boy Gross Matos. At this pick, we already said he's going to be off our board. Now, where Mel Kiper has him taking him as well, so he's already off our board. Who did the Titans grab here?
So I think right here the Titans are going to need to go defense. I don't think there's any question about that. Obviously, with Gross Matos being gone, they need a little bit of an edge rusher, but I think they're going to actually settle on getting a really good linebacker who probably maybe deserves to go a little bit earlier. But I have them taking Patrick Queen, the linebacker from LSU.
I could see him falling to them based off of what we've already said. So yeah, I would agree with that pick as well. Now we're getting into the last few picks here, Core. Green Bay's now picking here up at number 30. Todd McShay has him taking T. Higgins, the wide receiver out of Clemson. Same thing with Mel Kiper. I agree with that pick. I think that's who they go with to give Aaron Rodgers just another pass catcher outside of Devontae Adams. They added Devin Funchess, and adding Devin Funchess, but he needs that extra guy. So I feel like that's the pick for them is T. Higgins out of Clemson.
Yeah, I think here it's a pick where you could see Henry Ruggs go here for Green Bay. I think Green Bay would really like to have Brandon Ayuk that was taken by Minnesota a couple 8 picks earlier. I think this could be Denzel Mims, who is a speedster from Baylor. But I do agree with you. Green Bay, their bigger wide receivers seem to do something for them. Devontae Adams on one side, T. Higgins on the other side sounds pretty dangerous. I'm going to go with T. Higgins as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Closing out the first round, the last two teams are the 49ers and Chiefs, respectively. Mel Kiper has the 49ers taking Noah. I'm not going to attempt to butcher his last name, the cornerback out of Auburn. And McShay has him taking A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. I think Terrell's already going to be gone, so I think they do go the corner route to have somebody on the other side of Richard Sherman. What are your thoughts? Do they go corner for that route?
So I think the problem here with San Francisco is in our draft, I already have them. And in the way I see it, they've already taken C.J. Henderson. So they already got a corner taken care of. So I don't think C.J. Henderson's gone. He's that pick. They've got it taken care of. I personally think San Francisco, they need a receiver. They need a receiver. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. They need to get someone. I think Denzel Mims from Baylor is going to be the pick here for the 49ers.
I definitely see that happening because they definitely need to get another offensive weapon for Jimmy G. And then we end the first round.
Yep.
Exactly, like losing Emmanuel Sanders, losing some of those guys. I think that they go with that pick as well because we already have them taking a corner. Next up are the Chiefs. Rumors have surrounded where I've heard J.K. Dobbins' names being thrown around here. McShay has them taking DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. Same thing with Mel Kiper. Personally, I can see it, but the rumors have been swirling around that they're looking at J.K. Dobbins. What are your thoughts? Do they go running back here, or do they fill one of their needs that they have here? Because they need a corner, they need a linebacker, they need some offensive line and defensive line help. So do you think they go running back, or do you think they search elsewhere, try to get a running back in the second round and go elsewhere here for like a defensive or offensive liner pick?
So I think, this is one of those where I think, Kansas City, this is where Cesar Ruiz may fall. I think this is definitely a pick where he could fall that far. But I really think, I think J.K. Dobbins would make a lot of sense. But I think Kansas City, you just won a championship. You've got a good couple of receivers. You've got a great tight end. You've got a phenomenal quarterback. You got to protect the quarterback. I think to round out this first round, I think one more offensive lineman goes. Austin Jackson from USC. He is graded as a first-round talent, may probably fall to the second round. But I think here at number 32 could be a steal of a pick to be able to take another offensive lineman to help protect Mahomes in the future. I think Austin Jackson is the pick.
I definitely can't disagree with that, especially with the money you're investing in Patrick Mahomes, the money that you've already invested in Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. You gotta give Mahomes time to be able to throw to him. So I think, beefing up your offensive line is the right move for them at 32, and then trying to get a running back in the second round would be their best option. But I think if you're going to go running back, if you're them, nothing against DeAndre Swift, and not because I'm biased or anything. My honest opinion is I think J.K. Dobbins is one of the best running backs in this league. In this draft. I mean, he has breakaway speed that we saw against Clemson, who they raved about how fast they were on defense. He broke away from them. He sheds tackles. He has great vision. He has the quickness to be able to get to the edge as well. So I feel like that would be a more logical pick at running back for them to take that pressure off of Mahomes, knowing that you have a guy who can run between the tackles. But if you're not going to go running back, I think you definitely have to go offensive lineman at this pick for that.
Yeah, again, I really could see them going running back. In the way I have my draft set up, I do not have a single running back being taken in the first round. Which isn't too shocking. Obviously, running backs, you don't really see a lot of first round running backs. Outside of the ones that are going to be spectacular and great. But I really think it could be J.K. Dobbins here. But I think at this point you can't go rough an offensive lineman. So I rounded out with Austin Jackson, for the offensive lineman standpoint. And I think Kansas City will definitely address a running back, and I think they can get. And that's the thing. I think Jake Dobbins is someone that could fall to day 2, and day 2 be taken pretty early on for a trade. And I think Kansas City may try to trade back in to try to get him in the second round.
Yeah, I could see that happening as well. But let's talk about that real quick. Like you said, I mean, we don't have any running backs really be taken in the first round this year. According to Mel Kiper and Tom McShay, you're looking at the first running back be taken at 32. Has the league evolved past having like a running back, or is it more or less where now it's we need these receiving weapons because that's just the way the offenses are evolving?
I think it's kind of a safety thing. I think the offenses are evolving to the point where a quarterback, offensive line, and receivers are more important than a running back. Running back is still a vital part of offenses, very important. You want to have that. However, I do think, in this day and age, you can get that top tier running back in the second round, unless you have some running back that you cannot pass up on, like the Cowboys of Zeke. At number 4, when you get a guy that you can't pass up on and he's like an overall guy like that, you're going to take it. But I just don't see that guy in this draft. You have a lot of great talent in Swift.
You don't have your
J.K. Dobbins. You have that unreal number 1 guy who's going to come in and just change the game of football, like a Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Just to reiterate your point, I don't see that type of a running back in this draft. I don't see a Saquon. I don't see a Zeke. I don't see a Nick Chubb, a Melvin Gordon type guy in this draft. I mean, even Adrian Peterson, type player. I just don't see that caliber of a running back in this draft. So to me, it's really not surprising that, running backs are not a hot commodity anymore. And they're more or less on something, hey, we could still get a great running back to do what we need to do later on. Let's get the stellar wide receiver. Let's get this stellar offensive lineman. Let's get this guy over a running back, knowing that we can still get the caliber of a guy we want in the second or third round.
Absolutely.
All
and
right,
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So your final thoughts here on just our mock draft for the first round. Your final thoughts here.
I think there's it comes to a point there's only 32 picks, right? There's a lot of guys who are on the verge of being top tier talent, and again, one pick can change everything. I think overall, we hit the needs of every team of what they would need. Whether, some of these teams are waiting a little bit longer and maybe not getting the guy they want at their first pick, but having a second choice at their second first round pick. I think, we addressed all the needs of the teams and where they need to go to set them up for success in the future.
Definitely. If you could call one surprise pick here that might just shock everybody, like a move that might shock everybody, what do you think that move would be out of the first round?
So I think really realistically, I think the move for me would be if a team traded into the first round for a running back earlier with like the top 20. I think that would be a surprise move. I don't think there's any of them that are worth that. I think really realistically, the biggest move I really see here that would just shock everyone is if the Bengals traded away number 1.
That's what I was gonna say. That would be my thing, my biggest surprise too. The Bengals traded away the number one pick. That'd be the biggest shocker of the entire draft, passing up on a top quarterback prospect like Joe Burrows. All right, Corbel, there you guys have it. There's our first round. There's our mock draft here for the first round. I know we are going to be doing a live commentary. So we're going to watch the draft. We're going to, give our commentary as the picks come in. And we're going to post that after the draft is over. So it won't be necessarily live, but you're going to get our live reactions as the draft is happening. So check that out on Thursday this upcoming week. Look out for that. Anything else you'd like to add here, Core?
No, just continue to listen and keep up with the draft. We're here for you. If you have any questions, please reach out. We'll be glad to answer them on the air.
Yeah, and if you have anything that maybe some picks here that you maybe thought fit teams better, send us those our way at 513sportsattack@gmail.com, and we'll take a look at them and see and take a look at them also on draft day and see maybe if you were right versus us and to prove us wrong. So please send us all that as well at 513sportsattack@gmail.com. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Core.
I was going to say, and, obviously, we thank you all for listening, for the continued support. During this tough time, we're trying to help bring a little bit of cheer to you here. So we're going to give you everything we've got. Just come along for the journey with us.
Yeah, definitely. Always don't forget, catch us on any podcast format that you have. We're on the majority of them: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean. We're going to be uploading. We're on YouTube as well. So pretty much anywhere you get your podcast needs, you can find us at 513 Sports Attack. Again, any questions, any topics you would like us to cover, email us at 513sportsattack@gmail.com. And we'll catch you guys, everybody, on Thursday here after the draft. Thanks, guys, for listening, and one love.